Please put your hands together for the marvelous Fauzia Kufi.
Good morning. I also would like to thank the Economic Times of India for giving me the second time opportunity. I was here in this beautiful city last year for this wonderful event. I think I had more to share, so this is a great opportunity to be with this very diverse group of people from different walks of life to share and listen interesting stories that inspire us. At some point in our life journey, where we embark for different reasons, there are times that we feel it's time to give up. Sometimes we give up before we even start. Sometimes we give up when we are just to make that big true that we have put so much efforts for this. But the fighters don't give up. Despite having hundreds of reasons to give up, we still stick to that one issue that we believe in. And my life, as the first of many, as the first girl to be allowed to go to school in our family, the first of many to enter that no entry zone as woman, have been full of those moments that I thought it's the time to give up. But there have been things within me, inside me, reasons that made me stood up and pursue what I have believed in. That strength, that inspiration that has always kept me going comes from mostly from my personal life. Like many of you that have been through enormous challenges that I'm sure have made you who you are today, the challenges also made me who am I today. The challenges made me stronger. And I believe as women, if you don't face challenges, if you don't face obstacles, if the road in your life is easy, then you are not strong enough, perhaps. Then you have not been able to press that sensitive button for many people. I always see challenge as a positive step. The first challenge started when I was born in the first day. I was not liked by many people because of my gender. I was a woman. The first person that was not happy was my mother. She didn't want another girl yet to suffer as much as she suffered as a woman. I had to struggle from the day I was born to do impossibles. I had to struggle to prove and gain the love of my parents and prove that gender is not the obstacle. I was the first to go to school. My father was a politician. He was a member of parliament. He established many schools in our area, but he did not allow his own daughters to go to school. After my father was killed by Mujahideen during the Civil War, and we had to flee our village and come to the city, I started going to school. Being the first girl to go to school and to get education, I faced enormous challenges starting from my family. There were many people, many of my brothers who opposed me and said, it's enough for girls to be able to read and write. Now that you are able to read and write, it's time for you to stop. Because for a girl to go to school, at the end of the day, the girl does not represent the family's identity. She does not contribute to the economy of the family, so there is no use for a girl to go to school. That was a belief they had. I had to struggle and always be to the standard to convince them. So you see how challenging it is. You always have to be to the standard to convince your surroundings to let you do what you want to do. But on the other hand, it's good that we always try to be to the standards. When I finished my high school, the family said, enough, you can read and write. You don't need to go to university. I had to try my best and study hard to go to medical college. Medical college is the top universities in Afghanistan, I think anywhere in the world, but depends on what you want to do. Whatever you want to do is the best. But in my country, medical college is a perfect profession for a girl to go, to be a doctor. So I tried my best to go to medical college so that I leave no reasons for people to oppose me. I went to medical college, and then Taliban government came, or their regime. Of course, they stopped girls' education, not only for me, but for thousands of other girls who wanted to contribute to the positive world, contribute a change, and prove their abilities. We were looking the world and its beauty from the small window of our houses. I faced hardship of Taliban brutal regime. One day I went to the prison, the Taliban prison, and I forgot to clean my nail polish. I wanted to meet my husband in the prison because they put my husband in the prison for marrying me, and I come from a political family. So no justice, no trial. They just put my husband in prison. And I went to see my husband in prison. One of the Taliban commander came and told me, why are you wearing nail polish? Nail polish is anti-Islamic for a woman. I was wearing burqa, full covered. He picked up a stone. It was so difficult for a woman to face a Talib and even to talk to her, to a Talib, is more difficult, was much more, you're basically putting your life at risk. So this guy picked up a stone and wanted to throw at me. I immediately turned face because I didn't want to, go to that level. I started arguing him for a few minutes, but then I turned face and I came home and I said, I'm not going to meet my husband again. Let him whatever happened to him. I respect my dignity and my identity. Those moments that you give up. But one week later, I went again to meet my husband, and this was the week that they decided, because I was so insisting. So some of these Talib guys gave up to me and said, go and take your husband home. Of course, he was in prison for no reasons. I had to flee Taliban controlled area and go to my constituents, my province, which is now my constituents in northeast Afghanistan, one of the most beautiful cities in Afghanistan, so similar to Switzerland, if some of you have been there. I went there, and then I started teaching girls English and established a home-based school for girls. There was no enough offices for girls, for women. So there was no office for me. I had to start home-based school. I had two rooms. One was for me, and then the other one I allocated for a home-based school. My husband told me, we have 2 rooms. Why are you giving it to the girls? My husband was very supportive, but this moment he said, you shouldn't do it. One of the moments you want to give up, but I said no. 1 room is enough. And then the guests, when they come, traditionally we have a lot of guests who come unexpectedly. I think in India also, we're popular nations for hospitalities and having guests. So I tried to convince my husband, and I continue to have that home-based schools. Many of my students are now in the high-level positions, and especially girls. They are in powerful positions. I established that first ever, I would say, schools that will teach English, not only English, to teach girls not only English, but other subjects as well. When the Taliban regime was thrown out of power after the 11th September attack, I moved to Kabul, a city that I really love. And I, like many other women in Afghanistan, was feeling the freedom of breathing normally without the fear of being beaten up by Taliban wipe. You know, they had that black wipe which will start beating a woman if women were wearing anything against their standard. When the new opportunities arose for women after the fall of Taliban in 2005, I ran for politics. Perhaps the first thing that comes to your mind is that I come from a political family, naturally, so I have the support of the family. And therefore, because I know in most of parts of the world, many of these women who have come to the higher level powerful position, they come from the background of family and support of family. It was the other way around in my case. In my case, the family was against me running for parliament. Of course, the first choice is my brother, because he represents the identity of the family, he represents the power of the family, and he is the right person to run for politics. We had an internal elections in the family. The whole women of the family voted for me. So it's the power of unity of women. So then I became the eligible person to run for parliament. When I ran for parliament, yes, in 2005, for the first time, many people voted for me because I was the daughter of my father. So for my father's identity. I won with majority of votes, not only based on quota, because we have a quota in Afghanistan, reserve seats, something that India should do that too. We have reserve seats for women in parliament because we are ranking, Afghanistan is ranking 28 countries in the world that has majority of female politicians. I was listening to Julia this morning. India is not ranking very well, so that's why I think you should fight for having a quota. There are many pros and cons to that, but I think that's a right for women in the high-level leadership position. So I got a lot of votes to be elected, not on a quota, but on a general seat. When I came to parliament, many people told me that's enough. You have won a seat, you're in parliament, this should be enough for you. But I always believed that being in an office is not enough. Just being elected or having a position and trying to satisfy yourself by having a computer and an office and a salary, it's not enough. You have to be there to change something. So I decided to run for the speakership of the deputy speakership of the parliament. Against me were running all these popular or at least long-standing politicians, leaders who were in Afghanistan for many years. I was in the politics only for six months or 5 months. So they asked me to not run, but I ran. And my initial thought was that I could at least demonstrate the power of women and the courage, even if I don't get elected. But to the surprise, I was elected for the first time in the history of Afghanistan to be the deputy speaker of the parliament. Remember, my struggle was to prove my identity, not the daughter of who I was. That was my pride. But my own identity was the bigger pride for me. So in 2010, when I ran again for parliament, people voted for me not because I was the daughter of my father, but because I was myself. And people will call my brothers not my brother, not me, not their sister, but they my brother, like Fawzia Kufi's brother. And I think that's very, very important for women to have their own identity and their own image. But being elected to office was not enough. I struggled to have laws for women. I struggled to have, for the first time, things that were regarded as taboos. The last thing that I just came directly from there, I shared a little bit of my story during Taliban. I have hundreds of those stories, which of course the time will not permit me to share with you. But the one thing that I shared to demonstrate how I was treated by Taliban. But I always believe that it's important you enter the no-entry zone as woman. You take the first step. You go to the red lines, where it's not convenient for you as a woman. You get out of your comfort zone. So the last thing I did was when I was invited to the first official peace talks with Taliban last week, 2 days ago. In fact, I came directly from Moscow. I was invited to talk with Taliban. Can you imagine? The nail polish, it was anti-Islamic, but me with this outlook, I should go and talk with Taliban. For the first time, I thought that I shouldn't do it because, first of all, I don't like their ideology. Secondly, I thought women were the main victim of Taliban government. They took us back to hundreds of years by stopping education and opportunities and trying to impose things that they believe on us. Impose wearing a burqa. I respect burqa, but not because Taliban tell me to wear it. I should wear it. I went to talks with Taliban. I saw some of these people that have strong, strong views about women's rights. I had to give the first speech in the inauguration of our official talk with Taliban. My speech was, I didn't write anything. I just said what I believed in. My speech was that Afghanistan today has transformed so much. And I think it's a global message. If you want to rule any country as politicians, you have to adopt based on the situation. You cannot ignore 55%, the 500 million of a society, which are women. If you want to ignore them, you will not succeed. And the message was taken. I'm not very optimistic, but I'm hopeful if I can change some perspectives, if I enter that no-entry zone. And therefore, I always believe that giving up is not what we do. We fight, we survive, we live. Thank you very much.